Hey everyone, welcome back to the Blitz Esports tier list. We skipped 8.18 as it was a relatively small patch and our contributor Trees was playing in EU Masters, but we're back for 8.19, the Worlds patch. 8.19 mainly brings buffs across the board, looking to increase presence of certain champions at the World Championship. If you need updated pick ban and win rate stats between our tier list videos, check out the Blitz desktop app here, also linked in the description. We always keep it up to date with the latest stats, builds, and guides for every champion. Starting with the top lane, where most of the patch changes were focused, we have Darius. While the AD ratio buff to his W, Crippling Strike, isn't really that huge, the extra armor penetration on his E will definitely make a dent, especially in tank matchups. With that said, this is mostly a change that mains and pros can make use of, so we're not changing his overall placement. He stays B. Next up is Jarvan, who is definitely the highlight of the patch. The cooldown changes to his passive might not seem that impactful, but they're huge. A 6-second cooldown on his passive opens up more frequent trading patterns in the top lane, which also line up well with Grasp of the Undying procs, so he can trade favorably versus other melee champions. If you're a more aggressive player, you could also try to run him with Electrocute, which now has a lower cooldown. He's also a very versatile champion, as he can change his build depending on what the composition and team requires. From full AD to Bruiser, Jarvan has options and should be showing up more this patch. The change also impacts his jungle clearing and should help him with early clears, as he'll get more passive procs when burning through camps like Red, Blue, Gromp, or Scuttle. And in the jungle, every second you shave off your clear matters. Overall, we're moving him both to A tier on top and jungle. We predict he'll be showing up much more with this buff. Speaking of the jungle, Ramus is definitely a bit more than just okay. He's been a consistent performer for several patches, but what caught us off guard is that he's also performing very well in higher tiers like Platinum and Diamond, not only below, so we've moved him to God tier. Simple to play and execute. His clear is fine and his ganks are terrifying. Definitely a champion to pick up if you want to keep it simple and win games. Throughout the last few patches, there haven't been many changes in the mid lane and the status quo is maintaining itself. With that said, we wanted to talk a bit about Kassadin. He's been doing great for several patches now after the last set of buffs, and with sustain runes such as Fleet Footwork, he can get through his weak levels 1 to 6 with more ease. He's solidly in A tier, and the only thing really preventing him from going beyond that is that he can give up too much map pressure early and doesn't work well as a blind pick unless his numbers are completely overtuned. Over down in the bot lane, we see a similar situation to the mid lane, with most champions staying intact as there weren't any significant changes. The Vayne buff on 8.18 should definitely help her trading potential in the early game as she can tumble more often, but she still has trouble getting to her spikes due to her risky playstyle and limited range. We're keeping her B for now, but if you're a Vayne master, now is a good time to try picking her up again. It's also worth looking at Twitch and Jinx. They've been consistent top performers in their role for several patches now, ever since they got compensation buffs, and they're right in between A and God tier. Their only issue is that they need to get out of laning phase and into the mid game, where they can start carrying with 2 and 3 items. They're great to pick right now, but remember that you don't need to win lane with them. If you're in a bad matchup, just lose gracefully until you get to the mid game. Finally, the support role saw buffs to several champions. We're actually not moving anyone because we think that for the average player, these aren't that huge, but Thresh and Pyke deserve a special mention. They were already in our A tier, and these buffs only solidify their position there. Pyke is getting a bigger spike at level 6, being able to execute champions for slightly higher health thresholds. As for Thresh, the lower cooldown on the first ranks of Death Sentence should help him have more presence in lane. And that's it for the tier list. Feel free to discuss or ask us questions in the comments below. For more champion stats and guides from Blitz, download our desktop app for League of Legends. We tell you the best builds for your champion, who's OP this patch, your teammate stats, and enemy playstyles. Totally automatic. No typing required as you go through Champ Select. Intrigued? Check it out at blitz.gg/tierlist.